Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we're covering This Week at Bungie for October 22nd, and they're covering some pretty big sandbox stuff, so let's just go ahead and hop right in. 2 weeks ago, we began a conversation about sandbox tuning for Beyond Light. Armor modifications are getting some hefty changes from reloads to raids, and if you missed that, check out October 8th TWAB. This week, our focus shifts to the weapons in your arsenal. As with our mods preview, we have a collection of patch notes accompanied by a developer commentary. Today we'll be covering some changes to a few specific weapons and weapon families. For those of you who don't have much knowledge of our sandbox, each weapon has a specific frame that is also tied to its associated rate of fire. We've included both of these for a little bit of clarity, as many players default to rate of fire when talking about various weapons. As an example, aggressive hand cannons currently have a rate of fire of 110 rounds per minute. For hand cannons, we're making changes to give hand cannon subfamilies more diversity and more reasons to use each. For the aggressive frames, increased rate of fire from 110 to 120. Guys, this is pretty huge, I'm not gonna lie. Broke out aggressive hand cannons, allowing custom tuning of stats. For example, damage fall off for 100 range, and this subfamily now starts at 32 meters. For adaptive and precision frames, range stat now has more impact on minimum damage fall off range for both archetypes. Damage fall off for 100 range now starts at 25 meters, it was previously 20. Precision hand cannon, 180 rate of fire magazine scaled up by 37%. Note, this also affects exotics with that rate of fire. Moved all the lightweight hand cannons 150 rate of fire to the adaptive subfamily of 140 rate of fire. This includes Luna's Howl and Not Forgotten. One exotic hand cannon will retain the 150 rate of fire. We aren't going to leave it to speculation. It's beautiful, it does solar damage, it makes enemies explode, it's sunshot. At this time, lightweight 150 rate of fire hand cannons represent the majority of hand cannon usage in the Crucible. While we experimented with many different ways to even out the lightweights and the adaptives, lightweight hand cannons consistently retained a faster time to kill. As such, we've opted to equalize their rate of fire. We selected 140 rate of fire as it is fairly balanced in the Crucible sandbox. It gives other weapon archetypes more time to breathe between shots, avoids an overabundance of hand cannons with faster time to kill than other weapons, and pairs nicely with upcoming changes to 600 rate of fire auto rifles. As for my thoughts on the changes to hand cannons, I think this change makes perfect sense to move the 150s to the 140s. I think for sure it'll be a more balanced hand cannon sandbox. Up next is sniper rifles. We want sniper rifles to feel powerful without being so easy to use that they dominate. Adjusted how aim assist is affected by sniper rifle zoom level. Lower zoom scopes have less aim assist, higher zoom scopes have more. Scopes with around 50 zoom are unchanged. Low zoom scopes have a large reduction in aim assist cone angle. High zoom scopes have a small increase. I'm pretty sure that's how it worked in Destiny 1, where the low zoom scopes had less aim assist, so I'm glad to see the same thing take effect here. Auto rifles, the big one. In Season of the Worthy, the adaptive frame archetype 600 rate of fire was given a buff. We're pulling that back a little to keep it in check with other auto rifle archetypes. Adaptive damage per bullet reduced from 15.75 to 14.25. Note, prior to Season of the Worthy, damage per bullet was 13.75. There it is, guys. They are nerfing the 600 rate of fire, which is huge if you are a Crucible player. Scout rifles have a reasonable time to kill and can't be adjusted too much without making them dominate the battlefield, so we're making them a little easier to use. Increased how much each point of the aim assist stat widens the aim assist cone. At maximum, the aim assist cone is now 15% wider. I really want scout rifles to find their way back into the meta because right now they are just not that good at all. So hopefully this change maybe can do something good for them. Rocket launchers. These heavy weapons currently have very low reserves, so we're adjusting that. We expect to take another look at rocket launchers in a future season. Increased reserves by 1 or 2 rockets depending on inventory stat. Next, Bungie talks about perks, and starting with Outlaw. The reload speed increase felt insufficient with certain subfamilies and combinations of roles, so increased reload stat bonus from 50 to 70, which is actually pretty huge. Very glad to see that change. Merciless, increased inventory stat from 36 to 55. This increases reserve ammo. Mountaintop, we've had a ton of feedback that Mountaintop feels a bit over the top in Crucible modes. This pinnacle weapon has had ample time to shine, so we're taking it down a notch. Specific pain points. One-shot body shot with infinite range. Quick and easy cleanup of wounded guardians, even around corners. Deals high splash damage, rewarding players for inaccuracy. Perfect in-air accuracy allows airborne guardians to rain down death, and there's not much grounded guardians can do to respond. Here are the changes intended to address those points. Reduce splash damage by 33%. Increased impact damage such that total damage is 5% lower than before. Reduced projectile velocity multiplier from the micro missile perk from 1.4 to 1.2. Now 20% faster than the breach grenade launchers instead of 40%. Reduced in-air accuracy. Now has significant projectile error while in the air. Around 7 degrees without the Icarus grip mod, substantially less width. This is great news. I think the mountaintop is awful, and it's really what kind of kills Destiny 2 PvP for me at the moment. Hopefully these changes will be enough, and the fact that it's being sunset will be nice too, and we can all move past this mountaintop meta. Falling Guillotine. Reduced heavy attack damage by 24% to bring in line with other swords. Note, Falling Guillotine will continue to be slightly above average, just not to the extent that it is now. Mida Multi-Tool and Mida Mini-Tool. These are guns I haven't thought about in a while. Moved the Mida Synergy trait to the intrinsic, similar to how the Baroque version works. Added the following perks: Hipfire Grip and Kill Clip. There is an issue with the masterwork on this weapon that prevents it from being upgraded. This will be fixed in a later update. Sturm and Drang. Moved the Together Forever trait to the intrinsic, similar to how the Baroque version works. Added the following perks: Accurize Rounds, Moving Target. And they also say they will be fixing the masterwork problem with this weapon as well. Ruinous Effigy. Transmutation Spheres. Reduce the damage of aerial melee attack by 25%. Significantly reduce the damage of the drain effect on enemy combatants. A pretty big change, to be quite honest. Arbalist no longer strikes shields multiple times, but its efficacy against shielded targets has been increased. Jade Rabbit armor-piercing rounds swap to high-caliber rounds. This fixes an issue that could prevent the exotic perk from triggering. Honestly guys, some of these changes are pretty big, and I'm happy to see things like Mountaintop get nerfed and changes to the hand cannon archetype especially be addressed. I think those are great changes, so I hope this pans out well for PvP. Now let's talk about adept weapons for Trials of Osiris. This is actually a pretty big deal. Beginning in Beyond Light, all existing Trials weapons have adept versions. Our intent is for all new Trials weapons to have an adept version in the future, with their infusion caps matching the season they were introduced in. For our first round of adepts, their infusion caps will be set to that of Season of the Worthy. Additionally, we will be introducing adept weapon mods into the sandbox in Beyond Light, which can only be applied to adept weaponry. Here's how adept weapons will differ from the base weapons. Masterworking an adept weapon grants additional stats. Plus 10 for the primary stat as usual, and plus 3 for all alternate stats. Adept weapons can use either a standard weapon mod or a new adept weapon mod earned when going flawless. A unique adept shader has also been made for these weapons. Note that these shaders are not rewarded as a consumable when dismantling an adept weapon, and as such they cannot be applied to other pieces of gear. Adept weapon mods. These mods come in two varieties. Weapon stat boosts, each of which grants a plus 10 to a particular stat in a similar way to masterwork stats. Example, adept range plus 10 range. Versions of some existing mods granting an improved bonus but with a downside. Adept mag, plus 40 magazine, minus 20 to handling. Backup mag is 30 plus magazine. To earn adept weapons and adept weapon mods, players must complete a flawless trials passage and open the flawless chest at the lighthouse. Each week a different adept mod can drop from the flawless chest. Adept weapon mods will be on a weekly rotation, so a given mod may not make its appearance until later in the season. The mod is unlocked for use on owned adept weapons when acquired. Adept versions will be available from the flawless chest on a bi-weekly basis, alternating with armor drops. The first adept weapon acquired on a given week is a pinnacle drop. Adept weapons will be set in rotation so players may continue to earn alternate rolls on specific adept weapons when completing flawless passages throughout a given weekend. I won't deny it guys, I think this is really big news. Obviously, adept weapons should have been there from the start. I really cannot fathom how they decided to launch trials again without adept weapons, but I am happy to see them finally return. And it sounds like after Season 12 we will be getting brand new adept weapons, and just trials weapons in general I guess. And to finish off the TWAB, they did make note of one more thing. Before we go, we've been seeing a lot of questions in the wild on how bounties, currencies, and progression systems will be updated in Beyond Light. We're currently working to get the info together and make sure everything is factual. This isn't a prepper's guide to the galaxy, mind you, it's just a heads up on how these systems are changing. Our current plan is to cover these topics next week. The most frequent question we're seeing right now concerns bounties and whether they will be cleared at the start of next season. Most of your bounties will stay intact, but any bounties tied to specific seasonal activities or content entering the DCV will be removed on November 10th. Examples would include Black Armory, Gambit Prime, or Festival of the Lost bounties. Additionally, any bounties that grant progression towards Infamy or Valor may negatively impact your powerful rewards, as they may be limited to just Season of Arrival power levels. Our recommendation is to go ahead and claim your bounties, just make sure you don't miss out on any XP or Glimmer. So like I said, there's a lot to take away from this, mostly pretty positive things so far. I always like hearing about SANDBOX changes, and these ones do sound pretty good. And of course, the reintroduction of adept weapons, something that should have been there from the start, but thank God they're finally making a return. But that's it for this week at Bungie. We're only 2 weeks away from the launch of Beyond Light, and I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. And if you did, be sure to drop a like, subscribe for more, and I will see you all next time.